Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Today we're going to be replacing the rear brake pads on our 2016 Yamaha YXZ1000R. Not that tough to do, just need to get the machine lifted up, get the rear tires out of the way, drop the calipers off, and then we can get to those brake pads. Now as far as the part numbers, let's take a look at what we're going to need to get this little project done. So here's what we're going to be replacing, and Yamaha actually refers to these as kits, but remember you're going to need to order two. That's going to be one for the left and one for the right side. There's one little neat feature I want to show you on these. It's also on the front. They actually have a little wear mark indicator. When it wears down to this point, it's definitely time to get these replaced. Now, as far as the special tools, there really aren't any required other than having a good torque wrench. Any other hand tools that I use, I'll call those out as we go along so you don't have to make so many trips to your toolbox. The other thing I want to stress is, well, this is a large machine, and I wouldn't trust lifting it up just on your jack. So go ahead and invest in some good jack stands. That way you know it's not going to have a chance of falling on you. Well, now that we've got our tools and our parts together, let's go get this thing lifted up and knock out this little project. Before we lift the machine, let's go ahead and break the lug nuts loose. Now you'll notice that I'm actually lifting up the entire machine and taking off all four wheels. And if you're a real eagle eye, you'll notice that the skid plate has been removed. Now you won't have to do that for your particular project, but there are so many things that I'm doing to this machine. I want to just go ahead and lift it up and get it up in the air one time. That way I can get to each project. The shop cleanup boy, me, didn't do a very good job of pressure washing this one, so let me clean it up a little bit more and then we'll get this pulled apart. So we've got her cleaned up reasonably well. We just need to remove these two 14mm head bolts that are actually going from the caliper bracket onto the hub itself. Now I was able to reach in and get to the top one fairly easily, but keep in mind you'll need to have a fairly thin ratchet head to reach in there. Now the bottom one, that's another issue entirely. The only way I see to do this is to use a swivel to where you can make it go in at an angle like this. But I actually have a socket that's built into a swivel, which I'm going to be using, and it is a 14mm both at top and bottom. Let's see if we can reach in there. Yep. Just a little bit of sand in there. Mud, trees, bark. So now with it released, what we're going to do is use just a regular C-clamp, put it onto the caliper, put this edge onto the brake pads, and then push the pistons back in so we can get the brake pads to come out. We'll move it back and forth until we can get them to push in evenly. That may be it. There's one. About halfway worn out, and two, get out of there. We use a little bit of brake cleaner, get this cleaned up, then we can install the new ones. We've got it cleaned up reasonably well. There's a couple of things we want to check at this point. One, you want to look at the surface of your disc, make sure that there's no grooves cut in it. It's got a wear limit of 5mm. I can tell you by just feeling it, I don't feel an edge on the outside or the inside, but we'll put a micrometer on it to make sure. 5.5, so still plenty of room left on it. The other thing we want to check is the condition of these two pins that actually go into the caliper itself. We want to make sure that this mount here moves freely, and it does. Because if it was getting bound up, that would cause the brakes to drag and then wear prematurely. They're actually in good shape. I don't see any cuts or tears on the boots, so we're good to go. Now if you did, you'd want to go ahead and finish breaking it down, replace the boots, and then re-grease these two pins. But ours is in good shape, so all we need to do is just pop in the new pads. The trick is here is to put in the bottom edge and then draw the spring up and then get it to go in there. All right, so we've got it angled in. The bottom edge is inside of that little spring, which is right here. Now what we're going to do is lift up on this edge and pop it in. So we've got one end in. Now we just need to do the same thing for the other. There. Like so. We just need to do that one more time on the outside. I'd like to tell you that that's really easy, but it's not. Take your time and just walk it in there. Get it in place. And it doesn't require you to do this, but I like to use a little bit of blue Loctite on the caliper mounting bolts, and then we're going to torque them to 35 foot-pounds. Definitely use blue, don't use red, because eventually this is going to have to come back apart. It's time to replace the pads and or the rotor. 35 foot-pounds coming up. I realize we're doing it through a swivel, but there's really no way around that, unless you want to take off the shock and bring the suspension up to where it'll actually pop straight in. No, I didn't think you'd want to do that, so we're going to use a swivel. One side down, one to go. Exact same procedure. So let's go knock it out. All right, once again, you want to check the boots, make sure they're not torn or anything. The pins feel good, everything's moving fluidly. So let's go ahead and get those pads in there. They're in. Now let's just get it remounted. Get a little bit of blue Loctite on those bolts. Well, all right, guys, that's pretty much going to wrap this up. Only thing left to do now is to remount the rims and tires and torque those to 54 foot-pounds. Well, listen, if you need these parts or any other ones for your machine, why don't you come see us at Partzilla.com and we can get you taken care of. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Hey, if you like what you see, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you can keep up with whatever I'm working on next. We just want to say thank you for shopping here with us at Partzilla, and we will see you in the next video. Y'all have a great day.